Hi, welcome back to the Absolute Human Podcast. I'm Jag.
And this is Sonia Palick.
This is our fifth week without working, right, Sonia?
Yes, this just finished our fourth week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's easy. It's a different world. That's interesting because I was like, because we're going to talk a lot about like how life has changed, and I hear some people, talking about how they want to go back to what it was. I don't think we're going back. I don't think anything in the universe actually goes backward. The cells always evolve from the core of everything. Everything is always moving forward. So we're going to be moving forward to a different, life. And I think some of us have to start, or actually all of us have to start looking at the fact that the life we knew, it's different now.
That's right. And I mean, when everything around you has sort of activated that change and that uncertainty, I think it just forces you to take a look at where you're at and how we just have to move forward. There's really no going backwards to a lot of things. They're pretty much,
No,
obsolete.
like the other day, my highlight was going to the dollar store. Standing in line at the dollar store. But it was good. I mean, hey, I got to see some people and they were all awkward. I was all awkward. But at least it was, I was out for a moment.
Right. Even just that simple thing of seeing people. I mean, unless you're an essential worker and you are seeing people, but for a lot of us who are quarantining or isolating, that is, I'd say, the biggest thing. Just not being around people.
Boredom is the biggest thing. It's interesting. It's like they did a study in Italy, and a study in Italy. And they're asking them what's the hardest thing about the quarantining, and the first was the isolation, and number two was boredom. Boredom. It's an interesting thing, and like I think it's very cultural. Like I remember going to India with my mom. We went on a plane to India. I don't know, and I had all my stuff, my iPad, my phone, all the distractions that we carry, in this world. And my mom had nothing. We sat down on the plane. She didn't turn on her screen for 1 minute.
Wow.
She sat there, didn't sleep. It was all in all, the two flights were a total of about 21 hours of flight. I had seen about 40 different movies, and she just sat there the whole time.
Right.
And I could just see how itchy I was, like, just going from one thing to the next, and how much, she could sit in her boredom. She didn't need to run around. She didn't need to chase something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I see it with even younger people now, how hard it must be for them to sit. I mean, the distractions that we grew up were with hard enough, but even more and more, it's just the distractions are what we're chasing all the time. So boredom. Bored. Give me food. Give me Netflix. Give me something. Just distract me in any possible way. I think it might be interesting for us to even just like notice to sit in it for a bit, and just like not have to run around and chase these distractions. And then maybe even, like I said, going to the dollar store, it could be like a huge event.
Mm-hmm.
So life is changing.
Yes, and we're very bored, and that's part of our experience now. I think a lot of us live a life where that was not one of the words that you would use to describe it. I don't remember
busy.
the last time I was bored. Busy was
Bored
the one.
from busy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and boy, does that really leave a lot of space.
Right. So things are changing. What's changing, Sonia? What's happening? What's changing in this world? What's different now?
Right. Well, let me tell you about some things that have changed in a very short amount of time. We are really relying on grocery stores. Yes.
Right.
So grocery sales are just surging as people stock up because of uncertainty. People are cooking more, and the latest numbers have shown there's about a 38% increase of grocery sales.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a lot because if in any industry, like in a few
Wow.
short
What were
weeks,
people doing before? They weren't eating?
eating on the go, like takeout.
But people still, I guess, okay, it's different now.
Right, we're not we're not preparing
Oh,
meals
okay.
as much
So
as we are now.
40% more?
Yeah, approximately. And a main part of this was things like rice, flour, things that you can have on hold for a long time, as
Right.
opposed to fresh produce. But it's just interesting that people are going back to cooking now
Wow.
after the convenience of on the go, and part of that could be economic as well. People
Right,
may
no,
have
the
lost their
money.
jobs. You don't have the disposable income.
Right.
And there's actually a campaign that just started yesterday, I believe, called Takeout Wednesdays,
Oh,
which encourages people who can afford to have Wednesdays as a day where you might take out a meal and support restaurants in your community just to keep them alive during this time.
wow. Well, that's a pretty good idea.
Oh, it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, with being at home all the time, I guess, I mean, we have the time now. Some of us, well, some of us who don't have kids, and some of us who do have kids, have the time to start cooking a little bit more, I guess.
I've cooked so much.
Have you?
I've probably cooked more during this quarantine time than like I don't even want to say it, but
Really?
yeah,
Oh, that's
it
interesting.
makes me realize how much I would spend
Well, I
on
think
takeout.
just simple things like start to really go back to the simple things that could actually make up a life and enjoy in life, like cooking could be something that you can really enjoy in life. Going to a dollar store could be something you really can enjoy in life, like the simple things. I know I keep bringing up the dollar store, but I don't have much anything going on right now. I think we're bored. We think we have stuff, time, or we're bored. How about the people that played slot machines? They're having a tough time too. Like, I mean, like there's a lot of different parts of, this society it's just so different. Like people who go to casinos all the time. It's like there's not, they're used to like 50 spins every half hour. And so the distractions that the different levels of society are used to, they're all gone. So people are trying to figure out, you know, what to do.
Right.
So
And
in this boredom, like, I mean, I did this. They did this study in for people. I think Max Planck once said, all of man's suffering comes from his inability to sit in a room all by himself and do nothing. And there's study this. Psychologists did this study on boredom, and they had people sit there just for an hour doing nothing, or shock themselves. They were hooked up to this thing that could shock them. And almost every single person that did this study would shock themselves.
wow.
Yeah, and the one person that they were studying, he shocked himself 70 times in 1 hour. And it's this idea how boredom can be really, hard for us. Like, for my mom on that plane when she's sitting there, that wasn't boredom for her. It was just space,
Yeah.
just ease. But for us, for a lot of us, we're just used to distraction.
And it's almost like you can switch that boredom word and turn it to mindfulness or presence, is what I'm hearing you say. Like just the difference between you and your mother
Right.
on that plane.
Yeah.
And that, how Max Planck said that was, a man's detriment to just sit in a room by himself. There's probably some Buddhist monks or meditation teachers would say that is the answer to your problems as well.
Right. Just to sit.
Yes.
Just sitting. Seems torturous already.
It does. And, I think part of it is because we're not used to it. It's not part of our, high up on the totem pole of things to do. Maybe now, as perspectives shift and there might be some more space, this could be something. I mean, we talk about it at our clinic as well too, to get people to stop and yawn, and even being in the treatment room for an hour with needles in is a big feat for some people who, don't have their phone with them,
Yes.
or want to go on to the next thing. So it's just a extension of that on a deeper societal level.
Right. And I think it goes really old for all of us. There's some place where we were all, distracted as young people. We might have had feelings, or we might have had, crying, or something's going on, and we got shown rattles, like distractions. Like, hey, look at this over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we still look for rattles, and we still look for distraction, as opposed to just sitting with, ourselves, or whatever feeling might be coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
On that note, I wanted to also say a good friend of mine passed away just recently. His name was Tim Petros. Yeah, and he was a good man. And I wanted to just acknowledge how hard it must be for people who lose people at this time. I mean, death is confusing for all of us at every time. But at this time, when we're not even allowed to come together and have funerals, it's very hard. I remember my mom telling me a story about the funeral processions in India. And in India, they have funeral processions like they have processions all over the world. And the idea she was telling me behind the processions is that they would carry the body down to the river. And as they were walking along the road, people would join in. And with each step and with each person that joined in, the grief would be spread throughout everyone. So the more people that joined in, the less grief that was carried by the family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of a nice thought just to even think of it that way, that a procession could do that. Like, actually just take the load off just one person or a family for grief, and spread it throughout everyone, so we can all carry the load. That's why I think we should share, like, when people do pass, like, post it on Facebook, call your friends, tell everyone, and keep letting it be moved. Because the worst thing about, grief or loss is the isolation around that. It's just you losing.
Right.
But it's everyone. Tim was a good man, loved by so many people, and his loss will be felt throughout a lot of society. And just wanted to mention that Laura and the family must be going through a little bit of a time, obviously, now. And I just saw a funeral the other day, actually, at a burial, I should say, not a funeral. And it was a Jewish burial, and they were just, it was amazing. They were still out there, but everybody was 6 feet apart. Mm-hmm. And I think just even the family noticing that there were people there, spread the grief out.
Right. Yes. No, so, right, that despite these restrictions, that there's still a place for humanity to happen, and to be there for us.
Yeah. Connecting where it's a different time. Like they said, even in the LA mayor just said yesterday that they might shut down all concerts and sporting events till 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a different and we're getting shocked over and over. Like, we're just getting, oh, this is the new world. Oh, this is the new world. And then we long for what it used to be. And I don't think we should be doing that. I think we want to look forward to what it could be.
Right.
Like, what is possible. It's always like, it's interesting when people long for what was. It kind of reminds me of the mega hat wearing people. If you're a mega hat wearing person, I will bet you're not listening to this anyways.
Most likely.
Not to me. They're not going to listen to us talking.
No, they're not.
But, they long for a time where they feel life was good. Like, in the 30s or 40s, or I don't know what they're, but it wasn't good for most women, and it wasn't good for people of color.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of a fantasy of what people long for, what it used to be.
Right.
What was it like what it used to be? We were busy, we were anxious,
Stressed.
many of us were stressed, depressed.
Right. On
Is that what we want to go back to?
No, I think we have an opportunity here to really have some space where we can think about what life could look like moving forward
Right?
and to not forget some of the space or some of the time that we have now. I have not walked outside more since this time has started, which has
Right.
been wonderful. And that's something that I want to carry forward.
Right.
I'm saying it now so people can remind me
right.
when that time comes.
Right. I mean, this is a new world we're walking into, and it's like, what habits do you want to create? What character do you want to become? This is a good time to really look at, what do you want here? Let's not look back anymore. Let's look, actually, what do you want? And let's start creating like the patterns and the habits that lead you to that life. Like when people come into our clinic, the first thing I look for is patterns. I look for patterns in their walking, their way they're talking, and what they're talking about. And I'm trying to understand where their dis-ease comes from. Because all disease, chronic disease, comes from a pattern in the body that's built from habits. And these habits that we create our character and create our destiny. I mean, that's what we have to look at, is like right now we have an opportunity where the slate is being wiped clean. Right now everything is like totally going to be fresh, and you get to reset it. You get to restart of what you want here. What it's going to look like. We don't know what it's going to look like in the future for what the society will look like, but what kind of habits do you want to carry forward?
Great question. And I think something really important that we need to be asking ourselves. What did I do today that I really want to do more of?
Oh.
I had a good conversation with a friend of mine on the phone, and it was just so good to hear her voice. And normally we would just text each other, but there was something so satisfying. And
That's a good one. Get people to talk on the phone again.
yes,
Like,
right?
that's a great one. People find it like hell when somebody calls them. When somebody's calling you and you look at their name and you're just like, ugh. It's like phone conversations have become the most difficult things for us to do.
Right. But reclaim them again.
Yeah, call somebody. Call somebody now. Just call them.
Right.
And be awkward for a minute.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have to be about something, but just to connect again. Not through text, but through phone and talking.
Yes.
And listening.
Absolutely. And even with more people having virtual conversations. Well, in terms of video chats, they are being used a lot and are keeping the dating industry alive. And a lot of these apps are reporting that people are using their virtual chats to live stream and watch a Netflix movie together, or they might even, cook together and sort of have a date that way. So video chats, they're working for us. Like that's so fun too. Like you can see people, and another good use of the technology, as opposed to where we've started to rely on text. Or
do you really want to see them?
It was kind of fun.
No, you did it like Facebook, what,
Like
FaceTime?
a Zoom meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, like a
and you're
FaceTime.
looking at them?
Yeah, you're looking and talking.
Oh, I find it too hard.
Okay. Well, you start with the phone, and
Yeah.
everyone else can do phone or virtual
Yeah, I
visits,
can't
which they're probably
multitask
doing.
like that. That's too much multitasking. But even like reaching out that way, just to reach out, don't get lost out there. Everyone, I mean, I walk around and I'm walking around looking out, no one's out, and we're just walking. I'm thinking probably the same thing everyone else is thinking. What is everybody doing? What is everybody doing in their house?
Right.
And we're all feeling this way because it's a whole new world. And as we go through this and as we move forward, we're going to be talking a little bit about like resetting this for your life in the way you want. And I think it's good to look at, the shock is wearing off. This is a new world. We're not going back. What do you want out of this new world? You probably want a mask. You're probably going to need a mask for a little while.
And another way that people have adapted has it's really interesting how it's really reframed a lot of things. There's a company in Japan and they do short-term rentals, like an Airbnb type of thing, and they had seen the high amounts of divorce that were coming out of China and Russia after their lockdowns, and they thought, okay, how can we help people here in Japan? So they are offering these short-term units as a way for people to get away from each other and have a little bit of a separation. And it also includes appointment with a divorce counselor. So basically, instead of getting lost in feelings, separating, having it be really messy, it's a way that people can have a little bit of space. So many enterprising people that are working around what is happening in very novel ways.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that's popping up a lot is conspiracy theories on my Facebook, and some people might be listening who posted it and stuff like that. And nothing against conspiracy, because I think greed always conspires, but I don't usually give the people in power the credit to being that smart that they can orchestrate such a huge project, or create something that's really that intelligent to control.
Right.
I think when people conspire and it's just not that intelligent. But these more and more conspiracy theories are popping up about many things, and not that to me it's like whether it's true or not, it's not really that relevant. I want you to be able to address life where you can affect it. You can't affect that highest level of distress, but you can affect your house. You can affect the people around you. You can affect what you're doing. When we get too far into this hole of conspiracy and greed, it gets pretty noisy. Right. And almost all of it is run by emotion. Like, it's just feelings that we have. And right now, a lot of us feel afraid. Mm-hmm. Even though we don't say it, we feel distressed and afraid. And so we put that on, or we try to find a story that goes along with it.
Right.
And whether it's true or not, I'm not sure it's that relevant. What I'm sure is it's relevant how your life goes in your house, around your life, and everything that you do is more important than addressing huge conspiracies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's a good way to put it. It's just another story that we use to have that feeling or face it somehow.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not very helpful.
Right. So we're going to be here again weekly. We're going to keep talking about the reset, because I think this is a reset, and really moving forward in your life and setting up what you want. And we'll keep talking about the feelings that are coming up, because this is really a lot of stuff is changing, and you're going to feel a little confused, like we all are, and a little distressed. And you might hate your family by now. I know a few people who hate their family.
Oh.
You get to hate them.
Yes.
Just don't kill them.
No.
You get to have feelings about it. And then you get to come back to your sanity. Right? And deciding.
And the reason that we talk about emotions so much here is it's a central part of the work that we do in order to keep everyone healthy, but it's just become so much more evident that this is an area that really is requiring a lot of look and a lot of support and assistance. In fact, there was a study that just came out yesterday here in Alberta, which is the province we live in, that 74% of us said that our mental health had been impacted by the pandemic, and that 34% said that they were feeling depressed or hopeless at least some days every week. That is a large amount of people. Pretty much, it goes without saying that this is something that has touched all of us, and we want to make sure that we are helping you take care of you so that you can help take care of others, and we can get through this together and intact. Right. And we're going to make sure that we're going to be giving you good tools and things that you can do as we go through this change and transformation together, but just so that you can adapt a little bit more smoothly and that it doesn't have to be as bumpy as it might feel right now.
Hey, thanks, Sonia. That's it for this time. Remember, feel your feelings. Don't follow them. We'll be back next week, and you have a good week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.